Good evening, everybody. Try that again. Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Mary Grace, and we're live. It's the 20th of January, if you can believe it, 2022, and this is Real Talk with Mary Grace. And I just wanted to let you know I'm very happy to be back. I was sick with, I guess, the cold. Some people might call it Omicron. I think it was just a cold. So I'm getting better, getting back. I hope that you guys will join me tonight. I'm going to do my best to talk, and I might have to take a little water break. I think you'll understand. So say hello as you're coming in. We are streaming now on Facebook, YouTube, Clout Hub channel 111, and on Twitter under Real Mary Grace 1. I'm glad to see everybody tonight. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit better. It was just a quick cold that tried to get me, and I took a lot of therapeutics pretty quickly right off the bat. And so I think I'm doing better today. I was really coughing a lot yesterday, and I think it would have been hard to talk. Okay, if I've got one eye on the door as I'm talking, it's because Barley George is outside and it's really cold outside, and I keep hoping he's going to come back to the door, and he hasn't come back yet. So I may have to get up and go let him in, but you guys know how that is. So I appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to wait a few minutes for some more people to come in. I hope that we'll get some people in on Facebook. And if you do come in, please say hello. And also make sure you tag people, and then share this into groups. As always, share it into Telegram rooms that you belong to. And then if you're coming back for the replay, please be sure and leave a comment and say hello, because I do read the comments, and if I can see them, I'll read them. Sometimes they get hidden. Sometimes they get deleted. I can't even find them. So if you do leave a comment and it's important and you feel like I didn't see it, make sure that you go to my email, info@marygracemedia.com, and just send me an email, because I do check that. I try to check that about once a day. So I don't know where everybody is, but hopefully people will show up. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got some big things happening in Virginia, around the country, around the world. God is good. God is really showing us that He's hearing us. That we're starting to see some things play out that the prophets have talked about. One of those things is that Pastor Hank Kunneman, and I think some others, have been prophesying for months now that we are going to see some very strange weather patterns emerge. And one of those things was that we would see snow in unusual places. And I'm in Virginia, and they're getting snow down in Virginia Beach and along the eastern coast of North Carolina. They're getting ice and then some snow, which is highly unusual. And I think they're going to be getting some of that up into DC as well. So that's pretty cool. Sometimes God will foretell something like that, and He'll say, "This is a sign that I'm working. This is a sign that, let this be a sign to you that I'm actually acting and listening, and that I am not asleep." And so, He did that all through the Bible, just like when He gave the wise men the stars. The star that they could follow to go and find the baby Jesus. It's very similar. He still does things like that. And so when He tells us that there's going to be weather events, it means that He's serious about what He's going to accomplish, which I think is pretty cool. So hopefully you'll find that encouraging. And I do, because it's easy. It's easy to get a little bit down in this environment because there's so much negativity. But just remember, the devil wants you to partner with him in that kind of negativity, and so it just kind of lowers your whole vibration, and we don't want to agree with him. We don't want to give him the ability to even have remotely what looks like a win, right? So we have to be careful about that. Now, a couple things that I want to share with you today. I want to talk a little bit about what happened last night in D.C. In the Senate. They tried like crazy to make some major changes, and they didn't get to do that. So we'll talk about that, and then I want to talk about what's happening, a little bit about what's happening in Ukraine, and I want to talk about the fact that a couple of different nations overseas have announced that they're lifting some of these restrictions. And then a couple things that are happening in Virginia that I think are significant. That, like I said, what's happening in Virginia, the fact that we have this governor, there's some watershed events taking place that I believe are going to be a like an open door for more things that are going to be happening in other states, which is pretty exciting. And have you guys noticed how mad the leftists are right now? They're kind of melting down. I see it a lot because I'm on Twitter these days. I got back on Twitter. I have a backup account over there. And it's not as fun as it was with President Trump on Twitter, I'll be honest. But, there's some pretty good accounts over there. And I like the back and forth banter that you get. It's not like that on Telegram. And oh, by the way, I do have a Telegram account. It's Mary Grace Media Official. And so make sure you're following that. Here, I'll put the link up here so you can see it. Mary Grace Media Official. There it is right there. You can take a screenshot and then go find that. You have to have a Telegram account. You have to sign up on Telegram before you can follow that. Okay? Mary Grace Media Official. There you go. Okay. Everybody's so quiet tonight. Super quiet in the chat. Okay. Hopefully people are going to see this episode. All right. I guess everybody was expecting me during the day. Oh, I wanted to tell you, you guys remember George News, how George News would do these YouTube live streams and then they post comments in the chat, in the live chat. Well, they had one the other night and it was on the 17th. And they posted some very interesting comments, and they said, they kept calling it a memorable day. They kept saying, remember this day, this is a memorable day. And then they even did a quote that said, where were you on the 17th? And I thought that was really interesting because they haven't posted in a while, and their main account got nuked by YouTube, and so they were on their backup account. And I was looking at that and I was thinking, okay, what does that mean? And it was late at night, and I was thinking, okay, they have 15 minutes for something to happen, And I was in a chat later with somebody else, and we were trying to speculate on what that meant. Why did they say that? And so somebody speculated and said that could be the day that the black hats are no longer in control of Washington, D.C., or the globalists or whatever. So obviously there was no earth-shattering event that caught all of our attention. So I don't know if that's it. And it may be a while before we know. But they are supposed to be live tonight. I don't know if anybody has seen that. Okay, here we go. A little coughing fit. Hold on. Okay. They said yesterday, they were supposed to go live last night, and then they said yesterday that they were going to go live tonight. I have a feeling they might just do it by surprise, because I think sometimes if they announce too far ahead of time, it just makes it just sets up a situation for the trolls, and I don't think they want that. So that's just something to think about. But keep an eye on their chat on Telegram, on their channel, because I think they'll post the link in there. And if I see it, I'll put it in my Telegram channel. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. Today is 1 year since since our president walked away and flew to Mar-a-Lago. And remember, he never conceded. He said, I'll see you around." Um, so, and then last night in the Senate, we had two Democrats that spoiled all the fun for the other Democrats, Sinema and Manchin. Um, One was the voting rights bill that was struck down. That would have given the federal government oversight over our elections, which is against the Constitution. Like, it's right there in the Constitution. And they they would have it would have completely changed the entire way that we run our um, the way that our elections run. I mean, it's just not the way it works. So that was a major, major win, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But they also wanted to end the filibuster, which would have given them the ability to ram through this legislation. And so they're really mad about this because they've defended the filibuster. And the thing about the Democrats is that they can come up with the reasons to justify anything and blame it on us and call us fascist because they're what they wanted didn't get done. And I think it's very interesting because, they constantly talk about, protecting our democracy, right? We have to save democracy. These people are a danger to democracy. And I finally figured out what that means because we're not a democracy, okay? What they mean when they say that is that it's a danger to their majority because they want mob rule. They want majority rule because that is actually the antithesis of what we have as a nation. First of all, we have a covenant with a covenant God. That's how our nation was founded. But then secondly, we have a republic. We do not have a democracy. And that's a good thing. Because if we had a straight democracy, then our country would be completely run by the urban areas that have high populations. I think you guys understand that. There are Democrats who, to this day, I think still don't understand that. There are Democrats who are upset that the Senate, that the majority in the Senate um, denied them, the 52 votes in the Senate denied them what they wanted. And they're crying and whining about they're crying and whining about the fact that a senator from a state with a very small number of people, or that the population represented by the number of senators who voted against the voting rights bill, it's a stupid name for it, was actually lower than the population of the people that voted for it. And so they think that we need to that we need to change the whole Senate. I kid you not. Like, this is their argument. And then those of us who understand how Congress works know that we have the House of Representatives to represent the actual number of people in a state or a district. It's a legislative district. So, I mean, like, it's kind of funny because I don't think they actually know how it works. They don't know how our government works. They're literally sitting there trying to figure out how to change the Senate so that it's more even and it's more fair. And I'm like, that's literally why we have the Senate, so that it's representing, the Senate represents the whole state, not the number of people in a state. That's why, Rhode Island gets the same amount of votes in the Senate as California does. Anyway, basic civics. But the thing about this is it's so very interesting because think about this. They've been crying and whinging and pearl clutching over this voting rights. I have yet to understand or see an example of anybody that actually doesn't have access to voting in America that's legally supposed to. Now, I've seen examples of people that don't have a right to vote getting a vote, like dead people, and phantom voters who don't actually live in an address. I've seen that happen. I've seen, mail-in votes of people that don't exist. But, law-abiding citizens in this country actually are able to vote. I mean, we took care of that with during the civil rights era. Okay. We took care of that with women's suffrage. So it's just very interesting. But here's the thing that's so ironic about this. Joe Biden is threatening, he's basically saying, if I don't get my way, then the 2022 election is not legitimate. That's what he's saying. And what I think is very interesting is that they're crying about, first of all, they told us that the 2020 election was the most secure election ever. Do you remember when they told us that? And they've told us to shut up and stop complaining. And they said that we're all conspiracy theorists and that we're actually insurrectionists for even daring to question the results of the 2020 election because it was that secure and everything was done by the book. That's what they're telling us, right? So if that's the case, then why do they want to change the rules? Can anybody explain that to me? If it was the most secure election and everything was done by the book and your guy legit won, then why do you want to change anything? I mean, am I missing something? Like, are they going to try to make the most secure, most fair election more secure and more fair because it wasn't secure and fair enough? Because Mr. 81 million votes, does he so is he admitting that it wasn't legit? Because that's what it sounds like. Because, I mean, aren't they telling us that there's major problems? That's what I think. But here's the thing. We know that what they really mean is that they want to secure their methods of cheating. They want to lock in everything that they did, and they want to take it over at the federal level so that those of us who are actually doing something about it can't make any headway. Because if they take it over at the federal level, then they're actually they're saying that any changes at the local level will have to be approved at the federal level. Can you imagine what a nightmare that is? I mean, they know that. They know that that if they get what they want, then elections in our country are done. We'll never ever have a lawful, legitimate election ever again in this country if they actually get to lock all of the fraud in that they perpetrated in 2020. But here's the thing too. If they felt so secure about it, and if they felt that, if everything was so good and so perfect, then wouldn't that mean that they are secure in believing that 2022 is a lock? And here's another thing. Let me go back to this. So if there are people out there who don't have access to voting, then how come we had record turnout in the last presidential election? Where did all those people come from? Where are the people that they're talking about? Where are the poor, downtrodden people that have been that have not had access to voting? Because if I'm looking at the numbers correctly, we had more voters than ever. What am I missing? How are they telling us that these poor people are not getting to vote, and then they turn around and tell us that they had record numbers of voters? I mean, I don't understand. How does that work? It's like they exist in a mental space of Common Core math. Nothing adds up ever. And then they try to tell us it does. So it's very hard to do the mental gymnastics to make sense of what it is that they're actually trying to do. It gets my brain a little bit addled, to be honest. But it's because there's just no logic to it, you know. But so I think what's really happening, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious because of what happened in Virginia. It's obvious because people are getting involved at the precinct level. They're getting involved at the school board level. They're getting involved at the mayor level. They're getting involved at every level. And this is we the people. We the people are getting involved, and we the people are saying, you know what? We're taking back our elections, and we're going to show up en masse. And President Trump is telling us to do that, and we all know that Creepy Joe stole it. We know that. We know it wasn't the most secure. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows it. And so, you know, what they know is that we are going to turn out in such great numbers, and we're going to and we're taking back the actual voting process. And you know, there are states where there's been major changes made. And there's something that I want to read to you. I put it in my Telegram room. I'm gonna read it to you guys. It's very interesting. Where the heck is it? It's kind of long. This is from an account called IET, sorry. And it says, so this is what he says. He says, if the voting systems are definitively rigged in their favor still today. So he's saying, let's just imagine a scenario where it's all rigged for them in their favor and that they don't have anything to worry about. If that were the case, why are they screaming about voting reform and voters and voting rights? Okay. Why are the Dems desperate to make woke voting laws? Here's why. Are they thinking it won't be enough next time? The cheating. Have new voting protection laws implemented in several key states knocked a huge chunk off of their numbers? How many states have been forced to purge their voter registry rolls recently? A lot. Okay, so that means that they can't send ballots to those people that no longer exist, that died, moved, etc. How many current state and federal investigations are taking place for voting fraud? Over the next 10 months, will Biden improve or worsen the Dems' chances of electing Democrats in 2022? What do you guys think? After yesterday's press conference, do you think that he's helping their cause or not? And here's a good question. Here's a question. Big Stacy didn't show up last week when Biden came down to Georgia. She's running for governor. I talked to you guys about this. She talks about and he was down there stumping for his voting rights bill. That is her lane. That's her claim to fame. That's the hill that Big Stacy lives and dies on. That's what she goes to sleep on and wakes up on every day. But Big Stacy stood him up. That's how bad he is for their brand, you guys. I mean, that's crazy. Okay, now press the pause button a minute. Talk amongst yourselves because Barley George is at the door and he's desperate to get in out of the cold. Hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Maybe he'll jump up on the table. I don't know. But I mean, think about that. So that's a really valid question. So, you know, how much is he going to help them? I mean, like this is a serious question. He's really bad for their brand. How many and which Senate positions and House positions are up for election this year? I believe that there are 28 Democrat positions, I think just in the House, that are not seeking reelection. So look who's here, guys. All right. He's trying to get this. It's very entertaining. Um, so yeah, you can't have that. What are you doing? Barley George. Yeah, what are you doing? It's my phone. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. Oh my goodness. This is a very serious conversation we're having here, Barley. Okay. All right. So how many states have removed mail-in voting? So these are some good questions, right? He's bored with you guys. If the computer falls down, well, you'll know why. All right. He's behind it. Now he's gone. Okay. So how many have removed mail-in voting? Yeah, he really is cute. Okay. And then back to the topic at hand. Okay. Lastly, what are the Dems going to campaign on? Let's see. Record low job losses. I mean, you know how many people quit their jobs? How about 7% inflation? Do you think it's going to be higher in August, September, or October? Maybe. How about $8 a gallon gas in California? What else? How about leaving 13 of our soldiers to die in Afghanistan? And Biden saying yesterday that he's not going to apologize for that. Yeah. So lots of liberals are waking up because Biden and the Democrats are floundering miserably. Vote blue down ticket so we can F up some more of your you know what. Okay. So the Dems don't stand a chance. And if they don't get the voting bills passed and they can't cheat like before, they are completely done. That's what I think. So this is why, guys, this is why it's so important that we vote in November, right? I understand that we need to fix 2020. Yeah, I mean this is not even counting like all the ridiculous mandates. This is not counting the the stuff that is happening to our children in the schools. I mean more and more is going to come out, and more people are waking up. This is why they want Joe Rogan gone. This is why they want to censor him. This is why 300 doctors came out against him. And then, of course, the people who know how to dig on this figured out that fewer than 100 of them are actually like doctors. Some of them are just PhDs. But the fake news tells you that it's actual doctors. But the reason for that we know is because they know that they are just it's not even like a little bit bad. It's horrible. It's worse. The economy's worse than it was under Jimmy Carter. I mean, you have to be really bad to do anything worse than Jimmy Carter, and it's worse than it's worse than in the crash when Obama got elected. I mean, this guy has, according to the polls, I think like a 33% approval rating, which really means like 20%. Okay, and so it's just like there's nothing that they can they've got nothing. They've got nothing. It's like, I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. And the problem is that that the guy that the guy that they thought they could control, and that would at least be a good front man, is just he's a disaster. That, like, he's not even close to cognizant, right? That's a big problem. That's a big problem. So let me get a drink of water here. And so, expect more of these shenanigans coming into these midterms. And there are a number of there are a number of um, there are a number of so-called or sorry, there are a number of governors races that are coming up for reelection. Hold on, guys. I need to check this text. Just a second. Apologize. Okay. Anyway, how many governor seats are open in 2022? I think it's like 25 or maybe more. And so and the thing that I think is really interesting as well is that I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see like more restrictions being lifted. Like they're coming out and saying they're coming out and saying that Omicron is a cold, basically that it's endemic, that we're just gonna have to live with it, things like that, and that's because 2022 is like not we're like on the cusp of the midterms and all of these governors races. And so the governors that have been tyrannical, that have treated their citizens, like complete and total garbage and ruined their lives and ruined their cities, a lot of these people are up for reelection or their seats are coming open. This is a big deal. And then, of course, every single seat in the House of Representatives is up for grabs. And I was talking to you guys about this last week. I was saying that you need to make sure that you vote in your primaries, because this is where you can you can make a difference in who actually gets on the ballot for the midterms. This is really critical. People tend to sort of forget about the midterms, because it's not a presidential year. And in some places, the turnout can be as low as like 20%. And so because of that, this is important. So pay attention. If you're doing a side chat, just hold on, because I want you to understand this. I want you to understand the primaries for House of Representatives, governors, and senators going into the midterms can make a massive difference. If you have an open primary in your state, make sure you're registered to vote. Open primary means that regardless of your party affiliation, you can vote in any primary. Go and do your homework and figure out the candidate that the Democrats don't want. Go vote in the Democrat primary against their guy or gal. Okay, vote for the one they don't want. Um, and so do that, and then for the midterms themselves, make sure that you vote and make sure that you pay attention to what is going on in the down ballots, meaning the board of supervisors, the sheriffs, the mayors, the judges, all of those things. The reason for that is because those races can actually be determined by, in many cases, like 2-3 votes, because if you have a 20% turnout in a midterm in a certain community, in a community of like 20,000, okay, that's not very many people, and so you can make a massive difference. And the Democrat voters tend to be lazy, and that's why they want to do mail-in voting, because in general Democrats are kind of lazy. Like if it's raining, they're not going to go vote. Midterm, they're not going to go vote. Things like that. And Republicans tend to vote on election day. So that's another reason that they want these election seasons. They want it spread out. They want to count the ballots, for 8 weeks after the close of election day, things like that. And so in terms of voting itself, be absolutely certain that you vote. in the midterms. Do not neglect to do that, and make sure that you get everybody that you know registered to vote. And in some places, you can't. In some places, you have to you have to check your voter registration deadline. Make sure that you're registered by the deadline. So those are just some things to start thinking about now, because the primaries happen as early as May. I don't know of any that are April unless it's like a special election somewhere, but pay attention as well and see if there's any special elections in your area. You have to be prepared to vote in those. I can't stress that enough. Now, what they're doing, the other reason that they're trying so hard to change these laws now is because COVID is dying. It's dying a death. And so they're not going to have justification for mail-in voting as much as they did in 2020. They can't, unless they can come up with like the Black Death and convince everybody to stay home again. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you've got these people that were lined up for 3 and 4 hours to get tested for a virus that's basically a cold. And how are they going to tell you that they can't go line up to vote? They've lost the narrative on that. Okay. So just be aware of that, and so you have to watch for their shenanigans. Don't be surprised if they start. Don't be surprised if they start pulling the climate change nonsense. Right? That's another reason for mail-in voting. I mean, they're gonna, they're not going to stop. These people never stop. They're never going to stop and say, "Hey, let's do it the fair way. Everybody gets one vote on election day, on a piece of paper, and they have to be counted by midnight that night." Like, that's not going to happen. If they have anything to do with it. Now, that's what we want. And we want a QR code that allows you to track your vote and make sure it was counted. So those are just some logistics of things that I want you guys to to understand. Okay, so Millie said in her area the primary is March 1st. So there you go. So that's hardly any time away from now. All right. It's less than 6 weeks, right? So just pay attention to that. Is that right? Yeah. Wow. Time flies. So pay attention. Go check in your area. Like in my state, you have to be a delegate we don't have primaries. We have well, what do you call it? Conventions. And you have to be a delegate. And you have to sign up to be a delegate to vote for your candidate in the primary or the convention. It's a primary, but they call it a convention. So check your state and make sure you understand the process so you don't miss the opportunity to sign up. I will tell you from experience that if you sign up to be a delegate, use your SOC email account. Do not use your real email account, because when you sign up to be a delegate, your name gets put onto the mailing list of everybody and their brother who wants to send you emails about political stuff. I mean, like every Republican on the whole planet is going to start emailing you. But leading up to the convention, you're going to get emails from the candidates that are relevant. But just be aware of that. Had I known that, I would never, ever have given out my real email. But I thought I was doing the right thing. So that's just a word to the wise. It's like an election law thing that all the candidates have access to your information, including your phone number. So I'm just telling you, get like a burner phone and get a burner phone and get like a backup Gmail account, or if you have an old Hotmail account or something, use that. Do not give them your primary email account if you sign up to be a delegate. I'm telling you that from experience. Okay. Now, what else? Okay. Let me check my notes here. Oh, one thing I wanted to say. So yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? They came out and said, Boris Johnson came out and said that they're lifting the restrictions in the UK. All of a sudden, like no vaccine passport. So no vaccine passport, uh, none of that. Okay. And so that's cool. That's great. But let's just be aware and be ready and make sure you understand that Boris isn't giving anybody anything. He's returning what he took. Let's be very clear about that. Okay. So before you, start thanking the people that give you back your freedoms, remember that they actually took it from you in the first place. They're not your friend. They're not your hero. None of these people is a hero for reopening 2 years after they started this nonsense. So just remember that, okay? It wasn't theirs to begin with. And so he's not a hero. He's a man who's trying to save his ass. That's it. All right. Same thing in any place, in your city, in your state, any place that you have a governor, a mayor, a city council, or anything. If they turn around and say, hey, we're lifting the mandate, hey, yeah, you can be happy about that, but they're not heroes. All right. They are robbers that are returning what they stole because, you gave them 15 days and they took 2 years. Just never forget that. All right. I'm not talking about like revenge. I'm just telling you, make sure that you do not become a victim of Stockholm syndrome and thank your captors for giving you something that they had no right to take in the first place. Just be very clear about that. All right. Um, and I want you to be aware of that because it goes across the board everywhere. The airlines, the transportation industry, um, even the Supreme Court doing the right thing about rejecting these OSHA mandates. That should never have had to even go to that place in the first place. Okay, these people aren't heroes. It should never have had to go to that. So just be aware of that. All right. These people are not your friends. They will turn around in a hot minute and come up with another reason to lock you down and to stoke fear. And they'll come up with another excuse to do it because now they know they can. They know how easy it was to get everybody running around like sheep, quadruple masking and snitching on their neighbors for breathing fresh air. Imagine what they'll do if they can convince you that climate change is as much of a crisis as they want you to believe. Then they're gonna be shaming people for driving cars that use gas. You just wait. That's what they're trying to do because they want control over every aspect of your life. They want to destroy the middle class. Just never, ever forget that. They want to destroy borders. They want to destroy this nation. They want to have a one world government and they want you dead because they want population control. Okay. So don't ever think that, don't ever, ever give these people an inch. There's a red line that can never, ever, ever be crossed again. Okay. Right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Just remember that. Like, we're done with these people. We don't give no quarter to tyrants. None. None. Just remember that. All right? Hold on a second. Okay. Millie and Christy, keep an eye on the chat, on the other Telegram chat, because something was posted that might bring some activity. All right. So anyway, thank you guys for hitting like here. Hit the thumbs up. If you're not already following the channels, make sure you're following the channels. And I also want you to remember, please make sure you're following the Telegram and the Clout Hub, because if I get deleted from any of these channels, that's where you're going to have to go to find me. And then of course, when Truth Social comes out, it's going to be, you're going to be able to find me there. Here's my Telegram right here. It's Telegram. It's Mary Grace Media Official. So if I get banned from YouTube or Facebook, if the socialist media overlords decide they've had enough of us, then you'll be able to find me on those pages. Okay. And that will be Cloud Hub channel 111 and then on my Telegram. So please go follow those channels so that you don't miss out. Okay. That's where the announcements will be. All right, here we go. So let me check my notes here. Check notes, checking notes, checking notes. Oh, this is kind of interesting. How many of you guys heard about the terrorist who took hostages at the synagogue in, I think it was Collier, Texas, or Collier, Texas? I apologize that I don't have the name right, but it was a terrorist who came in demanding the release of his sister, who was also a terrorist. So he was a Pakistani. So this guy somehow manages to walk into the United States, get a gun, go in and hold the rabbi hostage. Now, they didn't have a big congregation present at the time. I listened to the interview that the rabbi did. He was incredibly poised and brave. Pray for him, because, you get PTSD with that kind of thing. Colleyville, Texas. Thank you, Beth. That was horrible. But, they managed to escape. But here's the thing. So within minutes, the FBI comes out and tells us, we don't have a motive. We're pretty sure it wasn't anything to do with Jews. The dude just literally held Jews a hostage in a synagogue, but whatever. Okay. So they, so that's our FBI. But at the same time, they're somehow still running this narrative that the people who walked around DC and walked into the Capitol and, politely walked past the velvet ropes in the Capitol, are terrorists, are just outright insurrectionists and terrorists. And in fact, you've got like people like Brandon Strzok that they wanted to convict him on, I think, 3 felony charges. He never even set foot in the Capitol. So they have, like, there's a big problem here, right? Obviously, their priorities are completely messed up. Okay. Yeah. And, so the FBI took credit for the rescue. The rabbi is the one that got them out. The rabbi threw a chair at the guy and got everybody out. And then the FBI moved in. It was either the FBI or the SWAT. But it's such a complete and utter farce what they're doing. I mean, it's just, these people need to be brought to justice. And, I've stood up for the FBI for like the rank and file. I don't know how much longer I can do that, because they're participating in this. They're participating in going and, beating down the Mima's door and trying to drag her in and accusing her of being an insurrectionist and accusing her of trying to overthrow our government. And then they blatantly come out, after live footage of a terrorist holding Jews hostage in America in a synagogue and telling us that this didn't have anything to do with Jews. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is insanity. Talk about gaslighting. No, you didn't see what you just saw. I mean, that's how Let's Go Brandon became a thing, because we had a TV commentator sitting there on live TV when people were chanting about Biden and saying, "Hey, listen, they're saying let's go Brandon." That is such an indictment on the media, and the media is pushing this. Nobody in the media is coming out and saying, hold up, wait a minute. The guy had people held hostage. They were Jews in a synagogue. They were Jews in a synagogue, and you're telling us that you don't that you know the motive, and the motive wasn't that. It's the most horrible criminal behavior out of law enforcement that I've ever seen. I mean, that's lawlessness. That's what lawlessness is. That's what it looks like when you have that obvious with that obvious behavior. It's just, yeah. And they refuse to say his name. Um, they said a man with a British accent. I kid you not. Yeah, hostage taker with a British accent. That's what they said. I mean, come on. This is just ridiculous. I mean, they take you, they think you're a chump. They just take you for a fool at this point. I mean, it's not even, it's not even like we can't even, there's nothing to say. It's horrible. Okay, now, last thing. I was going to talk a little bit about Ukraine. Hold on a second. Yeah. Yeah, he was basically taking hostages, trying to get his sister, a convicted terrorist, out of jail. That was the whole story. Okay. Okay. Changing the election laws. Just checking my notes here. I think that's the main thing that I wanted to say today. I'm not going to talk much longer because I don't want to have a coughing fit. I'm going to come back on Monday. And like I said, if George News does a live stream tonight, please share it into our Telegram chat so that we can join in. Yeah, Nancy says they're neglecting to tell you about his Pakistani background. Oh yeah, because that's not woke enough, right? I mean, they can't talk about that. They can discriminate against white people and not give them monoclonal antibodies because they don't have brown skin. But God forbid we would have a Pakistani terrorist come into U.S. soil. Who knows, like how he got here? Well, we know because they probably flew him in. They probably flew him in first class. And so he somehow waltzes into this synagogue. Like, let me just ask you, what is the likelihood that a guy from UK somehow randomly decides, hey, I'm having a really bad day. I really miss my sister who's a terrorist. Let's see how plausible this scenario is. Okay. So Mr. Pakistani terrorist wakes up one morning. He's in the UK. He's like, I'm having a really hard time. I miss my sister. I think I'm just going to go and like mess some things up. But I think I need to do it in America. Because, I mean, why would I bother to do it right here in the UK? So I think I got to figure out how to get to America. I'm a convicted criminal with a known record. Dang. How can I get to America? And if I go to America, where would I go? Okay, think about this. Like, obviously, if you're a terrorist, like if you're just some rando going to America, what's the first place you're going to go? You're going to go to like New York City, maybe LA, right? If you're just some rando terrorist who thinks you're going to go blow something up or take hostages, how the hell do you find a synagogue in Colleyville, Texas, and turn up at that one? what like let's just roll the dice here. What are the odds? How many chances in a million that some rando guy that wants to get his sister released from prison for committing terrorist acts is just going to randomly fly to a small town in Texas outside of Dallas? And thank you, Christy, for being here. What are the odds that he's just going to like just kind of randomly end up at a synagogue in Colleyville, Texas? How many of you guys think that was just, yeah, he was just rambling along and just found that here's a synagogue. I'm going to take these guys hostage. Are you serious right now? Do you guys see that? I mean, like anybody that tries to tell you that this could happen anywhere, that this was just a chance thing, right? Anybody that tries to tell you that, I mean, come on. If that like I've got a bridge to sell you in the middle of the Arizona desert under a dry creek, over a dry creek. I mean, come on, guys. That's just, yeah. Anyway, but you get my point. You get my point. How the heck did he get here? How did he just wander into a synagogue in Texas? And they want us to think that, of course, it's out of the news now because it doesn't fit their narrative. I mean, if some white dude, walked up, imagine if a white guy walked up into a synagogue and held Jews hostage. Can you imagine? I mean, oh boy. Yeah. I mean, then the whole Nazi narrative would start, right? Jeffrey Prather has something about it. I mean, obviously he had help. That's obvious, right? That's just obvious. Okay. So, listen, I think I'm going to stop now. I want, somebody said that George News is going to go live tomorrow night. See, they keep pushing it back. I thought it was tonight. So we'll see what happens. They must be traveling. Okay. There must be something going on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Colleyville is pretty random. Yeah, there's no way that wasn't planned, that he didn't have help. I mean, there's something, very specific about that. I don't know. Anyway, so guys, I will be back on Monday. Who is George News? Nancy, go into my Telegram chat. George News they have a Telegram channel and they have a YouTube channel, but you have to go to their Telegram channel to get their links. Okay. And they have a blue check. It's an official channel on Telegram that's a blue check. All right. So, okay. I'm going to go. I'm going to preserve my voice here and I will be back on Monday. I'm going to try to come on at 1 Eastern. And thank you guys for being understanding. Thanks for everybody for being here in the chat. Please do share this and please make sure that you get it out to groups and to people that that you want to hear it. Hopefully I'll have a better voice on Monday and I will be all better. So thanks again for my moderators. Thanks for everybody for being here in the chat. Remember to leave a comment when you come back. Remember to follow the channel and remember to pray for our country, pray for our president, the real president, pray for me and my family, pray for Barley George and my dad, and pray that my dad doesn't get this cold. I took him to get an IV, so hopefully like an immune boost IV. So just pray for him that he doesn't get sick and that we just have a great weekend here. It's going to be bitter cold. And so we are just going to hunker down. So love you guys. I will see you on Monday. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful weekend. Take care, everybody.